Well, of course, everybody's concerned that something happened to it. Of course, it's valuable. I mean, I don't know whether no one was we had no suspect in mind. As a matter of fact, there was more inclination to think maybe one had picked it up in the courtroom. I mean, someone, an addict or a defendant in a case. That's what we were concerned about, rather than any police officer or anything.
Captain Looper, the murder warrant that you've served on Eddie Harris today, that is for the murder of Mrs. Sauls in Irving?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
In March. Her husband has already been charged with this crime. Are we to understand now that this warrant means that Eddie Harris was the man who actually fired the shot that killed her?
This is what we're alleging in our complaint.
Do you believe that you have the weapon that killed Mrs. Sauls?
I couldn't comment on that right now, Mr. Martin.
There were some weapons taken from a residence in Dallas during a raid. At the time, there was a report that one of these was a weapon stolen from the Sauls, or that disappeared from the Sauls residence on the day Mrs. Sauls was murdered. Do you have that weapon in your custody now?
I believe that weapon's in the custody of the Dallas Police Department.
Can we believe then that that was the weapon used in the murder? Is that going to be your contention?
I couldn't make a comment on that either at this time.
Do you think you have a solid case at this point in time from your evidence on Eddie Harris for the murder of Mrs. Sauls?
I believe we do, yes, sir.
An alibi defense was built by Florio's attorneys Charles Tesmer and Frank Wright as the trial went on into the late evening hours. Tesmer told the two-woman, 10-man jury he did not question the fact that the 22-year-old secretary was viciously attacked by a man who claimed to be an investigating policeman, and that she was shot, resulting in the loss of an eye. But he said, referring to the fact she dramatically identified Florio in the courtroom as her attacker last July, this is a case of mistaken identity. Peggy Florio, wife of the defendant, testified that Felix was in bed with her when the alleged attack was made. A series of witnesses told of his activities the next afternoon and of the investigation leading up to the victims pointing out Florio in the hallway of the municipal building. Florio had become a suspect in the attempted rape case when the girl identified his picture. Florio himself was expected to take the stand tonight, but as tempers grew short with the lateness of the hour, the frequently delayed trial got behind schedule again. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Judy Hanna at the Dallas County Courthouse.
Here at Arlington Stadium, there are 30,000 seats or more. Right now, there's only one being occupied, that by yours truly. But June the 27th, around 7:30, almost every seat here will be occupied. That's the night of the coming of Baby Clyde, as one lady put it, or Little David. But whatever the case may be, young 18-year-old David Clyde has done something that no other Ranger baseball pitcher or the Ranger baseball organization has been able to do, and that is to sell tickets, and sell tickets young David has done.
Is this where we can get tickets for the 27th day on Wednesday?
How many do you need?
Will you take personal check?
Sure.
All right, I need 5.
Need 5.
Oh, you 4.5 when you go?
No, I have 4.5 down here and out here.
In here.
These are all gone.
That's it. Sammy.
The 2250.
Yeah, I take that.
Section 304, road, yeah.
How about 308? $16. Thank you very much.
Here's right behind home plate.
All right.
Now,
Take you over to third base, over here to 319. These are gone.
what about in here?
These are gone.
You got it?
You're all set.
Thank you, sir.
All right. 27.
You want to call that back, please?
$4.
1 seat, 16 and 17.
Seats 5, 6, 7, and 8.
No problem.
Right, $4 seat for the 27th.
Up until about 5 minutes of 1 right now, young David has sold over 8,000 tickets for Wednesday night's game against the Minnesota Twins. So be he Little David or Baby Clyde, there's a lot to be expected this coming Wednesday night. James Jackson for Channel 8 Sports on the move at Arlington Baseball Stadium.
Well, it's still wide open, Vern. I haven't made up my mind one way or another whether I'm going to camp or whether I'm not going to camp, whether I'm going to play or not. And it's still wide open. I feel like there's still a chance to negotiate, but overall I'm not too optimistic about it.
I don't know how much any player wants to divulge the aspects of contract negotiations, but is it true that the hang-up in your case is a no-trade clause?
Not necessarily, no. It's more a matter of pride than anything, and I'm sure management has pride, and I have my pride, and we've sort of come to an impasse right now, and pride's a big factor. It's a lot of principle involved, not the money type of principle, but a lot of principle involved in both sides, but the no-cut, no-trade isn't that big a factor.
Well, if it's not the no-cut, no-trade, it's not money. How would you define pride? What are you talking about when you say that's the hang-up right now?
Well, bending on both sides. It does come down to the money, but it's a matter of who's going to bend first and who's going to bend how far. When it comes down to the dollars and cents, you're going to spend them in a store just like I'm going to, or they're going to spend them someplace else. It's not that big a deal when you think of what you're going through as far as being a ball player.
Dave, given all of these problems that you have, do you still want to play football?
Yes, I very definitely do want to play, and I can't for the life of me figure out why we haven't come to an agreement at this time. I feel like I've always been fair and honorable with the club, and why players like myself and Leroy Jordan and Bob Lilly and Mel Renfro and Jethro Pugh are having problems, it's beyond me. I think we've always given 100%, and getting back to your question, I do want to play. I feel that I can be of help to the team, and the team could use me as a center this year. Hopefully things can be worked out.
Land like this that's held by major oil companies and not being produced has become the focal point of a massive struggle for survival by the independent oil companies. The independents say that they can only survive when they're finding and producing oil. They don't have service stations to worry about. But they say that the major oil companies are using the fuel shortages to try to squeeze the independents out. Now, the majors hold huge amounts of land with hot potential, like this in Ector County near Odessa. But the majors will not develop it, and they won't deal with the independents to allow them to develop it. Jim Phillips of Texas Western Incorporated says this is a change.
In order to overcome the crisis as we have it now, I think they need to work hand in hand. It would solve the whole problem.
But instead it's going the other way.
Totally, opposite direction.
Are the majors trying to get rid of the independents?
That's, I think, the whole program. They're trying to force mainly the retail end of it completely out of the market. In other words, they're forcing them out.
Is there any difference in the cost of producing oil between the majors and the independents?
Yes, it starts with the drilling. We probably can drill, have a well drilled for maybe 25 or more percent cheaper than a major, due to the requirements they put on a drilling contractor. He has to have more money to do the job, which we don't put the requirements they do on it, so he can drill cheaper.
What about producing?
Well, producing at least is the same way. Their overhead expense is so much greater than ours that we can operate probably at close to half the percentage of what they do.
Phillips warns if independents are forced out, the public is left at the mercy of the majors and their higher prices. Many independents say the same things, but are afraid of reprisals from the majors if they talk publicly. Another one who does talk is Midland geologist Ben Hoffaker.
Myself, in particular, recently have tried to get a farm out of some acreage that is held by production by a major company. And it's been very difficult to negotiate with them. They will not give me what I feel is a sufficient amount of acreage to warrant drilling a test, just for the economics, and to try and develop a deeper horizon than the one that is presently producing.
The squeeze is also felt strongly in independent refineries. Also in these refineries, there's unused capacities, while gasoline is rationed and shortages show up in other ways. The Fina refinery in Big Spring has been running no more than 80% of the crude oil it could until a new deal for foreign oil began last month. The Fort Worth refinery has been 10% below capacity and will soon increase that capacity, but under its contract with the supplier, no more crude oil apparently will be available. OKC Refining has had trouble trying to get enough crude oil to stay in business. OKC recently began outbidding majors by paying a higher price for crude. The majors have always controlled the prices before. This is Roger McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Well, basically two. One is, of course, the language barrier of English to Russian, of course, and along with that, the other items that we've been working on a couple of years now is to work out the compatibility problems between the modified Apollo Command and Service Module and the Soyuz vehicle.
Is that to say to put the two pieces of steel together?
That is correct. To make the international docking occur tentatively in July of 1975, that we can have this mission come off as scheduled in July of 75.
It all started when William Brown of Fort Worth, traveling eastbound on the West Freeway, turned his car over. But it didn't stop there. A two-car collision occurred about 7 blocks down the freeway at almost the same time. Fort Worth Police Officer Valdez was sitting in his car questioning Mrs. Arlene Scott and Mrs. Maxine Boatman about the collision when a dump truck loaded with gravel ran up on the grass embankment and turned over on it.
All of a sudden, the dump truck just missed, the police car and hit the embankment and just rolled right on top of it. And I saw the glass and everything just come down.
And you weren't hurt?
I sure wasn't.
Truck driver Jack Rhymes had a few more details about what happened.
Well, when I started off the hill up there, I tried to miss the cars. And I got here and I seen the police car, so I thought I'd better hit that bank. And it didn't work.
Then minutes after that pileup, there were 2 other minor accidents and a major one in the same area. Police say a grand total of 7 wrecks happened within the hour, but fortunately no one was seriously hurt. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Betty Hausman in peaceful Fort Worth.
We're going to take this a little mincing step at a time, court-appointed prosecutor Whitney Sessions told today's first witness. A San Antonio face peeler reluctantly testified about his trade secret formula in a business called Rejuvenation Center Limited. His background for the operation, which involves burning away the outer layer of flesh, was a degree in music and a license to fly airplanes. An expert witness, Dr. Everett C. Fox, said skin peeling was so tedious and dangerous that it shouldn't be attempted by anyone but a chemosurgery specialist, of which there were only 2 in the nation he knew of. The face peeler admitted that brochures showing before and after pictures as ads for his clinic were not patients of his. Witnesses tomorrow will be former customers whose hopes for young, wrinkle-free faces turned into a nightmare of infected, scarred flesh. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Judy Hanna at the Dallas County Courthouse.
Well, I don't know, but wherever you go, there's always news. That ought to be.
First, let me advise you your rights here. You have the right to have a lawyer present to advise you prior to any questioning or during any questioning. You understand that? Yes, I do. If you're unable to employ a lawyer, you have the right to have a lawyer appointed to counsel with you prior to or during any questioning. Do you understand that? Yes, I do. You have the right to remain silent? Yes, I do. Okay. You have the right to terminate any interview at any time. Do you understand that? Yes, I do. Okay. Do you have an attorney? Mr. Ralph Tate. Okay.
go down on the second.
You going for two, you going all the way?
Lieutenant Posey, as a member of the Dallas Metro Squad, we're hearing more and more about a possible murder for hire. We had a theater operator that was killed this week. We've had other allegations in days gone by. Is murder for hire easily executed in Dallas, Texas?
Yes, sir, it is.
People can hire guns to kill other people?
Yes, sir, they can.
What's the going price? Do you have any idea?
Murphy, it's really very cheap. I've heard of them as low as $500, and the price goes upward from there.
Does this compound the problems of the work of the Dallas Metro Squad when these gunmen are so easily available in Dallas?
Yes, sir, it does.
What is the best way to put it down, in your opinion?
Cooperation of all law-abiding people with the law enforcement agencies. People, let us hear from them. Let us know what they hear. We can check these rumors out and separate fact from rumor.
Here.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
Okay.
I've seen it, but maybe it's there.
Call my out of you.
It's not in it, but here, that's where it was when they got it.
195th District.
Yeah. Heroin. I know George hoped we didn't find it. Yeah.
That's right.
Was it spent was it worthwhile?
Oh, definitely, it's worthwhile. It's an everyday life as we look around, and I think that this is a stepping stone of going to Earth, because that's what allows this planet right here to function today. And if we find that it ever had one, and if we can determine what.
The city of Dallas, as well as all the metro.
We're going to really have to.
Nobody was really hurt bad. That's nobody can believe.
Well, here they come in all sizes, shapes, and descriptions. Now, most of us refer to them as cars and trucks. But if you're a technician, you might refer to them as commuter transportation modules. But if you're a police officer today, you might very well refer to these vehicles as coffins, because more and more people are being killed in these vehicles every day. The men are going to be funded by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Texas Traffic Safety Administration to be on the road at the time and at the locations in these cities where these accidents and fatalities are happening. Can I, as a motorist, look for more radar units? Yes, sir.
I do, sir. I'm Officer Schultz. The reason why I stopped is to clock the radar doing 65 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour.
Yes, sir.
Clocks with this hand-operated radar. And I'd like to see your driver's license.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mitchell, we had this on your TV last week.
Yes, sir, I know you did.
And I believe you ought to know that we're out here.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to issue a traffic citation here in court. Appreciate your courtesy.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your courtesy. I didn't really get a ticket. This was staged for your benefit. To kind of tell you that there are 11 cities in the northeast Texas area that are going to really crack down on speeding in order to stop traffic fatality. Oh, the ticket is not mine. It belongs to someone else. Here you go, sir.
It would have been if you'd been speeding.
Yes, sir. This is Jim Mitchell.
Channel 8 News on the move.
I think we need to make it clear, we aren't expecting to erect racial quotas in any way. We would hope that in all communities of Dallas we have whites, blacks, Mexican Americans, Indians moving in and out freely with no thought of any type of a quota system. In order to develop this type of a climate in the city of Dallas, we will have neighborhood organizations which will be formed through the Amigos as a central group, because we already have a large group of people that we can call upon. And they will deal in turn with issues such as the housing issues, the school issues, the racial conflicts that have arisen in their particular neighborhood on the level that they see they can best work.
I was sitting in my office in Fort Worth looking over some papers and making some phone calls, trying to find that one more good story that would make the day really click, when a young man came in, introduced himself as Bill Partridge from Lena Pope Home. That other story had just walked in. So I called in a cameraman, we sat up right there in the office, and I asked Bill Partridge to tell you the story he had just told me.
The Neighborhood Youth Corps is a program which is designed to serve disadvantaged young people in Fort Worth, and of course all across the United States. And last year we followed certain guidelines which made it possible for any disadvantaged youth that fit below certain income levels to work in Neighborhood Youth Corps. This year the Department of Labor has handed down some guidelines which have said that 550 kids in Tarrant County, Fort Worth, are not eligible to work because they live in certain geographic areas. This has put 550 kids out of a job they desperately need.
Well, it's the middle of June. Are those kids already at work?
These kids are already at work, and we're being told there are no funds to pay them.
Okay. What can you do about that?
I would suggest that people write their congressman. I'm going to make a call to the head of the manpower in Dallas and see if we can get this changed.
Do you know who he is?
Mr. Johnson.
You know how to get a hold of him?
No, his phone number.
I got a telephone. Let's do it. Just help yourself.
Okay, thank you.
No luck?
No luck.
Okay. Call him back later?
Right.
Okay. Very good, sir. I look forward to hearing what comes out of it.